Hello fellow sim racers and welcome to another Assetto Corsa Competizione GT4 pack preview video. The pack is now out in a couple of days time and this is the final race preview video I'm recording. I've done 11 over the last 24 hours, so let's have some fun in the Mercedes AMG GT4 and show you guys what this car's like in race trim. I nearly would decided to go 3 wide into turn 1 there. Decided better of it. Get a big snap over. So wow, there's another slow AMG in front of us. Messy first couple of corners from the AI. Anyway, these race videos, as I've said in all of the other ones, are really designed to just give you guys an idea of what the car's like in race trim while I sort of yammer on about it and the race going on around me. If you want to know about the GT4 pack in a bit more detail, then you're going to have to watch the main video over on the main channel. It's a sort of 30+ minute long review video of the pack where I go into pretty good detail. I can say that with confidence now because I've written the scripts for all of it. Earlier on, 24 hours ago when I started recording these, I was a bit more tentative about saying that kind of thing. Anyway guys, so cold tyres to start off with. Again, as I've mentioned in many of these videos previously, no tyre blankets, so lap 1 is not particularly indicative of how this car behaves, which is good because at the moment it understeers horribly on the way into the corners and oversteers quite a lot as you get back on the power, as you would expect. Tyres seem to be coming up to temperature reasonably evenly across the car, across the front and back, which isn't always the case with these GT4 cars. The Ginetta in particular I raced earlier today, well, that was a real horror show. The rears didn't come in for about 3/4 of a lap after the front tyres, which, wow, means quite a lot of oversteer. And while flinging it through the Grand Prix loop at Brands Hatch, that's quite unnerving, really. Still got quite a bit of turn-in understeer, still need another sort of half a PSI at the front and same at the rear. Getting there though. I feel like I'm spending my life talking about tyres at the moment. But yeah, this first lap dynamics is such a big part of how these GT4s behave. Another big factor is the lack of aerodynamics, which is allowing nice close following through what would be aero-dependent corners in the GT3 cars. It makes these really racy and just insanely good fun. I'm having so much fun driving these GT4 cars. I've got some league racing in GT3 coming up and I haven't driven any of those cars for about 10 days and I'm kind of hoping I haven't forgotten how. You wouldn't think they'd be massively different, but there is quite a lot of difference in the way these handle, which is nice. And as I've said in some of the other videos, the difference between the cars is there's a much greater variance, as you've got cars from very, very different design philosophies. Like, I mean, look at the difference between the Chevrolet Camaro and the KTM Crossbow. I mean, there's very little in common between the two of those cars. The KTM's got the same engine you might find in an Audi S3, that 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo that appears in so many of the Volkswagen Audi cars. Try not to run into the back of these guys while we're coming through the far section here at Misano. Whereas the compared to that little 4-pot turbo in the KTM, the Camaro, oh, we're going to get punted if we're not careful. Ooh, scary stuff. What was I saying? Camaro's got a 6.2-litre V8, proper, American muscle car engine. KTM weighs about 3.5 kilos wet, whereas the Camaro is about 3.5 tons, isn't it? I don't know. All I know is that the variety in these cars, both in sort of format and looks, translates really well across to the driving dynamics as well. Something in common between all the cars is they feel a lot more mechanical. So dive down the inside of that little KTM. Don't want to get stuck behind them. They're a bit limited on mid-range acceleration. I don't know if that's a factor of the BOP or if that's pretty accurate to the real car, not sure. Yeah, what is common, as I was saying, across all of the cars is a more mechanical feel. Now that probably sounds pretty obvious. They're less aero-dependent cars, so they're going to feel more mechanically connected to the road. I mean, that's obvious. But it does mean that you have probably more in the way of sort of correction in balancing the car on the steering than you would with the GT3 cars, which when they're really well set up are kind of set and forget. You only really need to make corrections when something's going wrong. These cars feel like you're driving them a bit more with the fine wheel inputs. That might just be because I don't have quite the same level of familiarity with the GT4s yet. And you know, again, I've made the point in many of these races so far that I've not done any practice for any of these races, so I'm going in blind, chatting away like an idiot, and trying my best to do a reasonable job of driving the car. So not perfect, but I think we're doing all right here at Misano, which is a great track for these GT4 cars. Again, something I've mentioned in previous videos is that these cars seem to excel at the places where perhaps the GT3s might feel a little bit clumsy, a little bit big and fast for the track. Now, I don't think Misano is necessarily the be-all and end-all example of that. I really enjoy the GT3s around Misano, but I know lots of people don't. The fiddly little corners like these do feel very clumsy, even to an extent in the GT3 car, in the GT4 cars, sorry. But in the GT3s, yeah, it does feel slow. So it breathes a new lease of life into places like Zolder and Brands Hatch and Misano to a lesser extent. I think Nürburgring to some extent, the Grand Prix circuit, because of that stadium section at the beginning in particular. I think they all fit really nicely into the GT4 mold, perhaps better than the GT3 one. So maybe even Laguna Seca fits into that a little bit as well. Short track with a lot of GT3 cars can be a bit unnerving. Of course, something I haven't talked about much is, through these videos at least, I have in the main video, is multi-class. Something that's been introduced with the version 1.5 update. Let's be careful, because I have no idea where this KTM is going to brake. Just giving him a bit of room, because Lord knows what the AI is going to do. I'm only running him down at 98%. Not full 100%, because I wanted a chance to be able to blitz through the field and show you guys a lot of the different cars, and it just keeps it interesting for me as well. Shall we run? Ooh, understeer on the brakes. That was far from the cleanest overtaking move. I haven't spoken much about the AMG so far. It does feel a lot like the GT3 version in some ways, but you don't have the front end aero. That's the biggest noticeable difference. The rear end aero, which is where it's even more lacking, surprisingly doesn't seem to feel the same. But the biggest difference in handling I would notice straight away is that turning into fast corners, it just doesn't have the confidence. It's going to understeer, it's going to push more than the GT3 version, which has that adjustable front splitter, which is super useful in setting up the GT3 car. Now, obviously, you've got other differences because you don't have that aero balance. You've got the bigger ride height, so we're just smashing across the curbs. We're balancing the car more on the steering, as I said earlier. I mean, the main difference actually between the two cars, not necessarily from a driving perspective, is the engine. This is the 4-litre V8, the twin turbo that's shared with the Aston Martin as well, rather than the big old 6.3 litre naturally aspirated lump in the GT3 car, which is glorious. We braked a little bit late there. We're going to have to just let the understeer take us onto the tarmac runoff, which everyone hates, but for me now, with one lap to go, I'm quite happy with. Means I don't have to really restart this race. I'm happy showing you guys my mistakes. We're all friends here. Well, most of us anyway. Getting a bit scrappy towards the end of this race as I'm pushing the limits with the car a bit. I think I probably found the limits about a lap and a half ago, and I'm still trying to go quicker each lap, which is sort of pretty normal, to be honest. See how much curb we can take on the inside here. More than I thought. I didn't quite get on the power as quickly as I would have liked, but again, you just monster the curbs. Oh, braking very late again. Get away with that. Definitely locked up even with the ABS there. That was not optimal. Well, here we are, enjoying this Mercedes. I kind of hoped I would. I really, really am a fan of the GT3 version. And the GT4, well, it looks more like the AMG GT, the road car, which I think looks beautiful. The GT3 version with the rear end aero sort of changes some of the look of the rear, which it looks great. It's very aggressive, but it sort of doesn't maintain the sort of classic sports coupe lines of the AMG GT, which I really like the road going version. And the GT4, you can't really see here. You'll see throughout the other video with all the external shots. It just the more subtle rear end aero. It doesn't really have a whack and great diffuser. We brake way too late again. Let's see if we can get away with it. Just about keeping it in the white lines. And we are very close to this Ginetta. Let's see what we can do. If we can throw a pass up into the final turn. He's pretty slow through the penultimate corner. This is going to be stupid if I do it. Stupid. Apparently is order of the day. Are we going to beat him? I don't think we are. Shouldn't have upshifted. Maybe I should have. Did I do it? Yes. By 9/1000th of a second. There you go. That counts. Just. Anyway, guys. Wow, this has been it's been fun recording 11 race videos. I don't do many race videos on the channel. That was the whole point of setting up the second channel, was to allow it. And when a good excuse came along to do so, to capitalise on that. And 11 new cars for Assetto Corsa Competizione felt like the best reason to do it. So if you've watched 1, 2 or more of these, then thank you so much for your time. It's been very much appreciated. If you haven't seen the proper review video over on the main channel, then it's something that I'm super proud of, and you'll get far more useful intel about the GT4 pack than you have from this race video. And I would implore you to go and watch that, guys. But whatever the case, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye, guys.